Another day, another dollar, as they say. Although unfortunately I'm not being paid for this. So today is to carry on with the floor pan, and I'm going to be doing the shifter modification. Now this is an aftermarket BMW, some sort of drift shifter, I don't know, but basically it's a solid mounted one as opposed to the rubbish that comes on the BMW originally. So I've got to try and work out how to get it in there, and this is what this video is going to entail, is possibly some swear words and probably doing a load of stuff that doesn't actually work and then sort of winging it maybe, I don't know. We're going to be making a mount of some description because this part here needs to mount to this via a little bar, but it also needs to avoid kind of any contact with the prop donor or the prop itself. So I need to make a section which comes across here up and over, and I kind of want to make that bolted into that rather than just bolted into a piece of floor. I think basically the plan is going to be to weld this bit, which would normally compress between the floor, onto a piece of tubing that I've got, and then we're going to scallop the tubing around and then somehow make this mount into this with the right heights to clear this. And yeah, it's all a bit of a guesswork, so I'm going to be in here with a few bits of metal, sort of a measuring device, and just hoping for the best, to be honest. So we need to clean this up for welding, but obviously it's been cut and clearance just so when that's obviously bolted to the top, there's, as you can see, hopefully you can see, there's kind of room for that to move around. So this is inevitably going to be clean and welded into this position here, and then obviously this is going to go onto the top. But to mount that to that, I've took the spreader plate off of the bottom, so that would have originally gone between like the floor skin. I'm going to grind off the powder coat. I'm going to basically weld it to this section here before obviously welding that into there. But also, because it's going to be a bit of a pain to get to from the underside, I'm going to weld on the nuts. So these are going to work as captive nuts. So basically all I need to do is just screw in the bolts from the top and then unscrew the bolts from the top to take the selector off. It's still going to be fiddly in the car because obviously I need to remove the part between the gearbox and the gear stick itself. However, once that bit's removed, it's just going to be a simple case of just pulling it straight out of the car once the 4 bolts are done. So clean this up, and then I'm going to carry on welding. So we've just unclamped it from the table. I TIG welded all the way around the edge, and it was just basically clamped down to keep this as flat as possible. So the next kind of stage is to get this bit into here, making sure obviously I've got that facing the front. So drop that in, and then that's going to be welded to that, and the rest of it welded up. But essentially what's going to happen is this gear selector is going to just be bolted onto there, and then instead of me having to try and get to nuts and stuff underneath, I can now just obviously just drop a screw in. Right, so we've got it kind of welded up, it's all tapped, gear stick way is on, so I've kind of surpassed my own expectations with this. I'm pretty happy, but let's go and check out, see whether it fits, because that's not yet known. Whoa! So I'm at the stage now, realistically, where I can't really progress much more with the floor until kind of the original floor has been pulled out, because obviously the rear of this car has 4-link incorporated into it, so I need to make sure the floor clears that. And additionally, I kind of need to start welding this frame onto something at some point. So kind of I need to get the side rails in at least, but obviously cutting the side rails out is going to cause a massive issue, because that's what's holding the cab onto the frame. So what I should be doing is putting some cross members in of kind of like between the A and B pillars, and triangulating everything and making sure the body doesn't flex. However, the side of that car is actually about an inch further in than it's supposed to be. So it's kind of pointless me bracing anything, simply because it's not square anyway. So I would rather not brace anything, have it all flopping about, and then square it up myself, than kind of sitting the cab back on how it is now, because there is an issue with that other side. So yeah, I'm gonna just cut down here. I'm not bracing anything. I'm not even lifting the cab. I'm just gonna see what happens when I cut it down. Literally, what's the worst that can happen? There's a few scenarios I can guess in my head, but yeah, we're just gonna send it and see. So literally, send it and see. Let's go. Went exactly how I expected it to, and that would be awful. Basically, I've got Tesla panel gaps now, so as you can see, fit a whole hand in there, and the door obviously doesn't close. And it's the same both sides, because obviously I've had to chop through the lower support, which is this bit here. So obviously when that's gone, the B pillar has been moved forwards, and the B pillar's moved back and the A pillar's moved forwards. If you don't know what I mean by A and B, this and this pillar have kind of split at the bottom, which is completely fine. I was expecting it, just it's always a shock to kind of see. Now the reason I didn't brace, which is what most people do and what I would recommend to do if you know your cab's square, is because my cab wasn't square. Like, my doors weren't hung properly, and I know for a fact that this pillar is in an inch closer than it needs to be, so that obviously needed cutting and pushing out anyway. That's just down to a bad repair. Now the guy that's done the repairs has obviously done really bad repairs. You can see like the lower quarter down here. Hopefully you'll be able to see how, let me just adjust the camera. So you'll be able to see that that is a bodge job through there. Again, with the kind of repair to this section here. Obviously it's rotten, so that's actually not touching anything. And it's similar basically on both sides. It's probably worse on this side, to be fair, but you'll be able to see kind of what I'm sort of working with. It is an absolute piece of dog mess. So the problem is at the moment, and obviously this is rusted here, the problem is at the moment I don't really have anything to kind of weld the frame to when it's done, because obviously all this needs repairing. Not a great starting point, I've got to admit. So obviously with me not being able to weld kind of to anything from left or right, I'm kind of now going to zone into the frame build where I know I can take measurements and I know I can still keep fabricating. Now obviously I need to make all this kind of panel work pretty much from scratch, and obviously these B pillars, square all that up, but none of that's square at the moment. I'm going to work with the measurements I know are square. So there's holes obviously in the chassis for these bodywork holes to kind of drop through. So the plan is, because I need to have my master cylinder here for the clutch, and that's obviously be able to fill that with hydraulic oil, and also the next to that is the brake servo. I want to be able to access that. So my plan on my build, because of that, and I need access to it, I'm going to be putting in a removable piece of floor just on this side. So I'm going to be putting in a bar across from here to here, and then obviously once the side one's in, we've sort of got a square, like a rough square shape, to have a piece of floor that removes that, and then I can get to what I need to get to. So I'm going to make sure these 4 holes are squared up completely where they need to be, and then I'm going to make a piece of steel that's going to weld this bit to this bit, And then just for it to be even, I'm going to do the same on the other side, even though I'm probably not going to remove that bit of floor because it's only, as you can see, the exhaust runs across there. But it would be nice just to have kind of two pieces of steel here. The middle section is welded, ready to go. Now if I could be bothered with some sheet steel at this stage, I would kind of sheet steel this and make like the rear bit of the tunnel for the prop. However, I just want to carry on with kind of the framework at the moment. So I've measured where these need to be trimmed for obviously the big side rails. I'm going to trim these back, make sure they're equal. So I've measured basically along the side and then I'm going to replicate that on the other side, which technically when I've measured it is short, but obviously that's where the problem area is in my cab. It needs moving out. So as long as it matches the long side, then I can kind of narrow it if I need to, but I don't think I do. So yeah, I'm going to chop these down and then look at welding the side rails to it. The only problem maybe is I don't think I'll get it in the car with the side rails on, so I may have to do that in the car, but yeah, we'll see. Let's just whip this off and go from there. So I've had a quick look in the car and I reckon I could get these rails on, welded to the central section and getting the whole piece in the car. Now, I hope that's going to happen because obviously I've welded it all now. So basically this is the central section of the floor. We've got obviously the central two cross members. The front is not done. There's going to be an additional cross member added into this at a later date. There isn't normally one on the Model A, but I kind of want to add one just over the gearbox just kind of make it a bit stronger. It may be up the firewall slightly, we don't know just yet, but there will be a front one and there will be a rear. So I'm doing this on the bench. Makes more sense to kind of keep it as flat as possible when welding. I've got to flip it over and just weld the other side of these two welds, and then I'm going to try and struggle like mad to get it back in the car. So the question is, Will it fit? Come on. Well, hey! Well, at least I know it fits. That's the main thing. I do have to get it back out because I've got to clean up a load of metal work in the cab and I've got loads of other stuff to do. So that is now going to be taken out of the cab. I'm going to look at something else for the time being. So I'm just going to temporarily square up the bottom of the door roughly. And the way I've done that is just clamping that way and pulling the door forwards and doing the same on this and pulling the door backwards, which has eliminated the big gap down both sides. Now the height of the door is not right at this moment in time, but I do have an issue with the bottom bit here that I've got to remake anyway. So for me personally, it's not worth me squaring up the door properly. All I really want to do is make sure that this bottom bit is welded to here at the correct length. So I'm going to do that now quickly. And basically just drop a couple of tacks in temporarily. It's partly because I go away for a few days, so I don't want to kind of leave the bodywork all floppy as I go away, just in case it introduces any stress into places I don't want to. So I'm going to do that with this door, and then I'm going to flip around and I'm going to do the same with the other door. So this is the moment of truth. Now, it didn't weld very well because obviously it's a bit dirty and I've just not got time to clean everything. It is going to be clean when I properly weld it, but this is only temporary measures. So let's see how bad this moves. Hopefully it doesn't. That's kind of the plan, but they are only really small tacks. Beautiful. So we've got a working door, and that's great. Now the bottom of this was deformed anyway, so we need to obviously sort this out. There's a bit of bad weld back here, obviously where this bit's rotten, but for the time being I've got a working door and I know roughly that this is roughly in the right place. So I've got to do the same with the other side, just pull that bit of the frame backwards, tack that side up, and then I'm happy to leave it for a few days until I get back and address all this problem properly. I'm dropping a few subtle hints of what's to come. I'm going to drop it 4 inches, the roof down. It is a daily driver, so I don't know how comfortable that's going to be, but they look so sweet with the roof chop. And 3 inches is a bit lame, so we'll go for the 4-inch roof chop. I think anything more than that, you start kind of deforming how the window looks, and I kind of want it to look chopped, but I also want it to look sweet. So we're going to do that at some point, but I think now I'm going to focus on something else, maybe some kind of panel work. So yeah, check out our next video and see what I do next. A bit of bonus footage. Let's see how this repair panel's been put in. See what's behind the paint. I'd assume that's a shitload of filler. Absolutely ridiculous. So it's a shitload of filler and a warped panel because we've got a nice bit of oil canning going on there. So yeah, this has got to come out crap.